from the Richland Hills Public Library. I'm Miranda, the youth librarian, and I am bringing you our activity time for this week. So, in a kind of roundabout way of doing February, of course, is Black History Month. And so what I thought we would do is try to find crafts that kind of fit in with famous Black people through history. So today we are focusing on Mae Jemison, who is the first Black woman in space. And we are going to be making these kind of cool, if not messy, no, definitely messy, paper galaxies. And we're actually going to be doing something a little different than the ones that I made here because I wasn't completely 100% happy with them. But it's all going to be the same sort of process in theory. So you need a lot of stuff for this one. You need some spoons. You need your food coloring, whatever colors you want. I do advise you to maybe try to pick colors that when they blend together, they complement each other. So like, for example, don't do red and green because like it turns into a brown and it's not as much fun. You'll need some oil. It does not have to be baby oil. That's just what I have. You can do cooking oil and see and test the differences and see if it makes a difference in your art. A paintbrush, some cups, water, salt. This one's not necessary, but I want to test it out and see what happens. Some sturdy cardstock paper, a tray of some kind, a baking tray or one of these plastic trays, whatever. Q-tip, if you want to. Again, I'll show you when we use it, and it's kind of up to you. If you want to get really messy, you can use your fingers, but I don't recommend it. And then paper towels and or Kleenex, tissues for random cleanup and blotting and all that kind of fun stuff. So let me kind of rearrange some stuff here so that I have room to work. And first off, we're going to be making our colors. Now, you can use watercolor if you want to instead. The food coloring is just what I had on hand, and that was the easiest thing to do. Don't need much in each cup. But yeah, if you wanted to try this out with just like the cake watercolors at home, or if you have two watercolors, that works just as well. Okay, now the amount of food coloring that you put in this water is going to determine the brightness of your colors. I'm going to go for about 15 drops of each color, maybe 20. And I'm using mostly shades of blue and pink and a little bit of purple here. And I imagine you're getting all the lovely background sounds right now since it's so quiet. We do stay open while doing these videos, so there might be stuff in the background. I'm always worried I'm going to squeeze too hard and that this top plastic part is going to pop off. I've had that happen before. It was actually with the black food coloring. It was a nightmare. Okay, I think we're good. So this part can actually be done a couple of different ways too. I'm going to mix up my water just a little bit. I'm using spoons, but if you have eyedroppers, eyedroppers would also work really well for this part. In fact, it probably would work better, to be perfectly honest. But we are just going to basically cover this paper in color. The spoons kind of help control it a little bit, but it's really not, it's okay if the water comes up, like that's why you're using the tray. And what we might do here in a second is kind of move the tray around to get some of these colors to go into places that they don't want to go into for some reason. Oh, I don't like that. Ooh, that's yucky. We're not using any more of that. So I think what we'll do now is kind of maybe, well, that's just blending everything together though. All right, so what we might just have to do is start going in with our spoon. The reason you want, I mean, it's not necessary actually to have the whole paper covered before you get started with the oil. Yeah, look, it's just one blue blob. That's weird. It didn't do that to me yesterday. But the reason you want that is because anywhere where the oil hits is going to soak right into the paper. I mean, it's going to do that a little bit anyway. But it creates these marks that you see here. That's where I had dry paper as opposed to wet. And if you like that look, then go for it. But if you don't like that look, then you want your whole paper covered. Okay, so we're gonna start. You don't want too much oil, only because, of course, as you can see, it's gonna start to clump together, just like that one just did. But you want enough to get some cool designs. And then once you have it on there, you can take your Q-tip and kind of try to mess with it a little bit. Of course, once you leave it to dry, it's going to do what it's going to do. And you're not going to have a lot of control over it. But once you kind of like how it's looking, you can do a couple of different things. That's why I've got the salt. You can sprinkle some salt on it, which will make it look like stars. Because the salt starts to absorb the water. And you can kind of see it starting to happen, especially like right up in here and down in here. And then once it's completely dry, you can brush the salt off, and it creates a really cool effect. Ooh, that was way too much salt. We're not going to do any more salt. It might look cool when it's done though. I was kind of hoping putting some over in here, but I think my water is just too heavy for it to have much of an effect in that area. Okay, so this does take a while to dry. So obviously I'm not going to be able to show you this finished one now. But once it is finished, we can maybe upload it to Facebook so y'all can see what it looked like finished, because I'm kind of curious how this one's going to turn out, because this handled itself very differently than the two that I made yesterday. So I'm kind of curious to see what it looks like when it's done. What you can do along the way, and what I did with these other two, this is obviously super saturated. And once it starts to dry a little bit, you can actually start dabbing with your Kleenex. In fact, I'll show you. Oh, we just lost a whole thing of oil right there. But you can start like, wow, that's really saturated. But if you want it to stay that, like in this case, the super dark purple, then you definitely want to leave it there and just let it dry on its own. Because if you don't leave it, then you'll wind up with more of this pink that's going on over here. What you can do though, and what I'm probably gonna do, probably not entirely while y'all are watching, because there's no point to that, but you can clean up the edges to avoid any like additional mess if necessary. And our salt isn't quite doing what I had hoped it would do. That might be because of the oil. When it's just salt and water, it works really well to create that starry effect. But because of the oil, it is just doing its own thing. I'm gonna be really curious to see how this turns out. I've got salt all over my desk now. So there you have it. Here, this is our oil and water resist Galaxies, watercolor Galaxies. So this is a really fun project. Obviously, it's really messy, so prepare for that. If you're using baby oil, also prepare for the smell. Because it is very powerful. And in that case, I might advise using cooking oil instead, only because it doesn't have the same sort of scent. Let's see, there was something else I was going to remind you. Oh, okay. So even once they're dry, these papers are saturated with oil. So be mindful of that when you decide what to do with them after you're done with them. So don't just like lay them in a stack of other papers, otherwise you're going to wind up with some oily papers. If you hang them on the fridge, be prepared for the fact that some of that oil is going to rub off onto the fridge, even when it's dry like this. Like, I mean, because the oil is there and it's not going away. So again, just be aware of that once you're handling it after it's done. Also, if you're using baby oil, the paper itself will smell like the baby oil. So again, just be aware of those things when you're making your own at home. I think that's everything. Of course, if you have any questions about this art project, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them for you. And if you make these yourself, of course, don't forget to share them with us. We'd love to see them. And let's see, I think that's everything as far as the project goes. So let's see, what can I remind you of? Our story time.
A baking challenge announcement.
Oh, baking challenge announcement. Oh, okay, so we're doing our new baking challenge for Valentine's Day. Keep an eye out for that. It will be announced on Facebook and on Instagram. Yes. So it'll be a cool, fun, like heart-themed cake. We're really excited. I think that's what we're planning anyway at this moment. So keep an eye out for that. We hope that you'll join. The last one that we did was really successful and everybody seemed to have a lot of fun with it. So let's see. And craft kits for this week. Mostly Groundhog's Day with some Black History Month mixed in. I really love our main craft. It's like this lenticular thing where you look at it from this way and it does one thing, and you look at it from this way and it does another thing. It's really cool and it's super easy to make. I think that's everything, y'all. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and I hope y'all have a good day.